pretty much my designated role is just simply production, like all media, all graphics, all like live stuff, videos, everything that you see on a screen, NSig related. That's pretty much me behind that stuff. Contrast does a lot of the management, pretty much like the gears and grinds behind everything. He does the social media stuff too on Twitter with like the legacy players of the week. Anytime I need him to promote something, is like, yo, put this through. But he's also in charge of managing the whole Discord. He's also the main CEO for all of the tournaments that we run. Yeah, he's pretty much like the gears and the muscle behind everything. I'm the one that just makes everything look pretty, I guess.
Welcome to the second episode of Brawlhalla Origins. On this show, I interview notable members of the Brawlhalla community to talk to them about how they found Brawlhalla and progress to how involved they are with the community today. On today's episode, I interviewed SandWic and Contrast. They're the co-creators of the nSig clan, community, and series of tournaments. Brawlhalla Origins is presented by Brawl Academy. Brawl Academy will provide the most advanced and detailed Brawlhalla courses and coaching, specifically meant for helping beginner-level Brawlhalla players get to Diamond. A small group will be allowed early access to Brawl Academy in late October, but if you want help quickly, replay reviews and coaching are now available. Sign up over at brawlacademy.com for more info. And with that, on with the show. SandWic, Contrast, welcome to Brawlhalla Origins. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm outside at 5 o'clock with forecasting. It's supposed to be thunderstorming, so this podcast could go very wrong very shortly, but that's okay.
It sounds like content to me, not gonna lie.
That does sound like content.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. How did you guys get into Brawlhalla? Like, how long ago did you start playing?
How long? Okay, December 2015. I know that. But how many years is that?
It's about to be 8 years.
That is actually a long time, yeah.
8 years, yeah.
Jeez.
I can answer this question pretty specifically. It was because I was the one that found it in our friend group.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know, me and SandWic have been friends since 6th grade, so it's about to hit 10 years now.
Yeah.
We're like that. We're like that. And in 2015, we were in 7th grade. I was 12 years old. I had a Mac. So we used to play games together a lot. I had an iMac. If you know about iMacs in 2015,
bro, the 2006 iMac, bro, that jump went through everything.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
My computer was not very good for gaming, so I was trying to find stuff that I could run it on, and I saw Brawlhalla there. It was a free game that was in open beta for like barely a month now, or at the time. So I just downloaded it. I tried it out. I told all my friends to download it, including Mr. SandWic here. And we've been hooked on it since then. So I was a really long time ago thinking about it.
So into 2015 would be like, is that open beta time at that point? Or is it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. The open beta was very new.
Okay.
It was like less than a month until when it went open.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Because I started end of 2016, right after the first BCX. So, like, a whole year had passed between when you guys had started and when I joined the community. So, just for everybody's context, you guys have been playing since the end of 2016. How frequently do you play today? Is it still pretty regularly, or less so? Or
I would say I checked, like, I think a couple days ago. I had like 45 hours. I still have like 200 ranked games, or no, 200 wins, so like 300 ranked games I want to say clocked in.
Okay, that's more than me.
Nowadays I literally just hop on for the new season. I'll get Valhalla, and then I'll only ever touch the game again if I need to like kill time for like an hour. Like, I'll just hop in the queue, play a couple games, and that's it. But I have like 45 like hours past 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Contrast?
For me, I rarely play nowadays. I play when there's a new battle pass. I go to finish the battle pass, and I'll play ranked to do it. So I'll probably get up to like 2300 maybe, and that's about it. I don't even think I hit 100 wins in the past like 3 or 4 seasons. No.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. you guys started nSig together, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about like the beginnings of nSig, how that got started? Who had the idea? And then originally it was just a clan, right? It wasn't actually kind of like what it became today. So kind of walk me through like what was the origin? What's kind of like the timeline for what it ended up becoming?
Okay. This might be kind of a long answer.
Kind of a lot, bro. I'm
Okay.
happy I'm outside.
But yeah, no, this is definitely a long answer. It was my idea, but
Okay.
the way it started back then, when we first started playing Brawl in late 2015, it was me and SandWic and a bunch of our IRL friends, and we were playing it every day, like hours on end during winter break. And then when summer break rolled around, every day, hours on end, Brawlhalla, Brawlhalla, Brawlhalla. We would watch all the dev streams together, all that. But then I want to say probably like a year and a half later, by the time 2017 came around, most of them had stopped playing. It was pretty much just me and SandWic, and Sandwick was not good. I'm sorry, Sandwick, but you were not good at the game. He was,
Yeah, that's how it
he
be.
was like he was like maybe 16 or 1700 at the time, and I was like 21 or 2200. So I was going out. I was trying to get good at the game because BCX 2016 was my introduction to Brawlhalla esports, and I loved it like a lot. So I started watching every tournament. I started going on Discord. I joined Brawl League because they said they mentored people. So I wanted to get good. I joined the Forge. I joined
No.
I joined a bunch of Discord servers. I joined Clan Holla at the time. I wanted to join a clan, see if I could find other people around my skill level to get better with because I've always been a pretty competitive person. But I just feel like a lot of the clans there didn't really align with what I wanted, or they weren't just like active enough. And I was bored, so I told Sandwick and my friends at the time who were like the first members of nSig. It was me, Sandwick, and then it was Right Side Up Panda, One Oz, and someone else. I don't think I can say his name on here, but we'll just call him Chris. A
Oh,
lot of you guys.
bro,
uh,
I was like, is he gonna say it? I'm like, oh,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, if you guys have been around the Brawler community for a while, you would probably know him as a
I mean,
Luxor
you could
Face-Off.
say the name he was assigned at CEO.
Okay, Spigums,
Oh,
or
oh,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, the Azoth player. I got all of them to start a clan with me, and I didn't know what to call it, and I was a Cassidy player at the time. Hammer Ensig was always so broken. I love the move. It was my favorite move. Back then, I used to hit grounded too. Believe it or not, it was horrible.
Bro, I think like every hammer Ensig at the time was just so cursed.
Yeah.
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 So I was a Cassidy N6 spammer. I didn't know what to call the clan at the time, so I was like, whatever. I'm gonna just be funny. I'm gonna call it Ensig. I'll probably change the name eventually. I never changed the name,
Nah.
but
It stuck. It
yeah, it's
definitely
like
stuck.
that's how the clans.
And then at this point, you guys have transitioned into like organizing and running tournaments and different types of events and things like that for the Brawlhalla community. Like, how did that get started?
So I want to say we started like at 2020. I think
2020.
yeah,
Yeah.
2020. We did our first tournament. It was like Shadows and Silhouettes. We did it, I think, for a $600 prize pool. Granted, there was no BCTI back then. There was no like the only tournaments that ever really got sponsored back then were just like Brawl League and maybe Estashao. I don't know if
And
Estashao's events got sponsored back during 2020, but it was like
esports for me.
oh yeah, and what's he? Oh yeah, esports for you too. But a lot of our beginning events weren't sponsored by like Brawlhalla at all, and we were going into it thinking like, okay, how do we make these tournaments like not only do we make them as close to like the officials level in terms of like how the stream looks, but also just like more fun for people in general. Because you even look at like our tournaments today, we are not professional. Well, we are professional, but like very lax in terms of like how we deliver that stuff with
Sure.
like what the casters do, like the overall tone, mood, etc. Right? But that's what we established back in like 2020 with Shadows and Silhouettes. That was our first tournament. We got like I think 300 or 400 concurrent viewers for that stream, and
Wow.
we were like, how? Like this is our first event. We had like all these top players competing. We had like a funny little like trailer for it. I don't remember if it was for that tournament or that one after, but we were going into that thinking like, how do we like put ourselves like separate from everybody else doing community events, um, to like get as close like as the officials would, because we thought there was like a lot of room for improvement.
Hmm.
But that's where we started with Shadows and Silhouettes. Then I think we did nSig Ascended, right? It was either nSig
Ascended was
Ascended or Trials. It might have been Ascended. We did
it was
Ascended.
Ascended.
Just it was again us just like self-funding these tournaments for like 600 like dollars or whatever, right? So it was already above like the normal amount for like a community event. And then eventually, when we started getting sponsored by Brawlhalla for those events, that's when we did like nSig Trials. And as we did like every single stream, every single like tournament, granted we weren't like where we are today, but a lot of the objective was like, how can we stand out to making like the coolest stuff ever, I guess, and that's what led up into now.
Yeah.
So, peel the curtain back a little and kind of explain what both of you primarily work on as like at nSig these days, because I know like a lot of there's like a lot of stuff happening on social media. There's like the legacy players of the day or the week posts that are going up all the time, and those are really cool. And then I know SandWic, you do a lot of production stuff, right?
Yeah, so pretty much my designated role is just simply production, like all media, all graphics, all like live stuff, videos, everything that you see on a screen, NSIG related, that's pretty much me behind that stuff. Contrast does a lot of the management, pretty much like the gears and grinds behind everything. He does the social media stuff too on Twitter with like the legacy players of the week. Anytime I need him to promote something, is like, yo, put this through. But he's also in charge of managing the whole Discord. He's also the main CEO for all of the tournaments that we run. Yeah, he's pretty much like the gears and the muscle behind everything. I'm the one that just makes everything look pretty, I guess. I don't know.
Nice. Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Contrast? Or
I mean, he pretty much summed it up.
okay. So both of you have been pretty active in the community, both as part of nSig and like otherwise. You've both come to LAN events. You've both kind of dug yourselves into the community quite a bit. How, aside from nSig, how did you go about kind of finding where it was that you fit into the community? And how did it feel when you kind of found that place? I'll start with Contrast this time.
Yeah.
Am I still lagging? Am I good?
You're good right now.
You're good.
Okay, I'll answer this one then. So, I'm gonna go back to 2017 when I mentioned that I started joining a bunch of Discord servers because I wanted to get more into the Brawlhalla community and I wanted to like, get good at the game. I made some friends in Brawl League and I made some friends in the Forge, believe it or not. Um, that I started talking to every day. Again, shout out Spigums, shout out One Oz, shout out Samantha probably, why not? A lot of those people I started talking to, and I started sparring a lot with people that were better than me. You know, getting better at the game, getting more involved with the community, and eventually, when I ended up making nSig, I started inviting as many people as I could to their server and to their clan and whatnot. And I kind of using Spigum's skill, I guess, because he was really good at the game. He would recruit so many like ranked nutters at the time we would call them.
Oh,
Like
we lost SandWic's
he
camera.
would recruit a
There we
lot
go.
of people from the ranked queue. And you would see nowadays like Snowy, Zakoi, Van Thurl, um, Dad, people like that. We got a bunch of people into nSig and we just started playing together and getting good at the game together. And we became friends. And then a lot of us ended up starting going to LANs and just being more involved with the community in general back then.
How about you, SandWic?
Kind of a similar story. I would just go into like different communities that pretty much Contrast is in, between like Brawl League, the Forge. I don't think we talked much in like Brawlhalla. It was just kind of there to be set up there. In terms of like how I became stapled, not regrettably, but like unfortunately, it was like trying to be like the odd one, like sending out we could talk about it, pancakes and mayo. Yeah, I don't well, yeah, no, we can talk about it. It's a podcast for a reason. I could just elaborate on
Yeah,
it. So
I mean, I was gonna bring it up in a bit, so I mean, we can
yeah,
dive into it now if you want.
so unfortunately, that's like pretty much what put me on in terms of people knowing me. It was like I don't know what Discord it was. We were just talking about food, and I like brought up that was like something I ate, because like in the morning, right? I didn't have like butter, I think, to make like pancake batter, so I used like mayo instead, and it was good. And I said that at the time, like I'm like, okay, yeah, that's why you like pancakes and mayo. But then I even tried like mixing the mayo within the batter itself instead of like as a cooking basis. I was like vibing with it too. So I kind of like made that like my gag, I guess, of just like I was eating that, and people were like, what the heck? Like even got to the point to where like I made that my name on Steam one time, and there was like a Brawlhalla dev stream, and Foda pointed it out. He's like, bro, what like vile creature would do this? And then Stefano Pro puts that like clip, that little Twitch clip of him saying that on like his YouTube video. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, well, that's just a staple, I guess. I'm like the pancakes mayo guy. So that lasted for I want to say like a year or so. I just went around trying to meet with more like community people. And then I kind of led into making like the Discord nSig, to where that's where we were just like talking with most people. That's kind of like how I got put on the map, I guess. It was less like me as like a competitive player didn't really get shown until like later 2018. I wasn't really into esports like that until like 2018, I want to say. But before that, it was just like me messing around and whatnot, just being involved in like a lot of active Brawlhalla discords. I somehow became a Forge rep at Plat. That's how you know that place was doomed, bro. Bro, they put me as the axe rep, even though I think my highest level at the time was like a level 20 Jala. And I played like Bodvar only, and I was like Plat, and they put me as like the axe rep. And at that point, I'm just like, yeah, this place is doomed. The only contribution I ever made to there was like removing Sidelight Nair GCD light, because everybody wanted it removed anyway. So I'm like, yo, let's put this on. They're like, okay. And then that got gutted out.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that's pretty much how I got put on.
How so nSig at this point has kind of become, it's a pretty popular Discord, I think, especially for people that are into esports. It also, I believe, has probably the highest rate that like top players in the game tend to chat compared to other places in the community. I think that's partially a consequence of like nSig was where a lot of up and coming players tended to hang out a couple of years ago, and now those up and coming players are like kind of big names. Yeah. How did you go about kind of attracting all of that, all of these people, all of that talent? That how did nSig become such a concentrated sort of like community of really good players?
I guess I could generalize this part. So I think it was like 2018 or so, we started doing like CBs against like a ton of other clans. And at the time, one of our more prominent players, Spigums, was like going crazy, just going off, right? So a lot of like other old top players would like go into the Discord, like try to see what was up with like him and other up and comers like Stingray and whatnot. And as we did like more CBs, as like those players started to pop off more and more, you would see like a ton of like old pros go into nSig and, you know, discussing stuff with those new pros. And then that kind of like snowballed eventually into where nSig became this place where like anything competitive, anything like esports related was just talked about there, because that kind of started at like the smallest level of like just doing CBs and whatnot and tracking like what players, like which players were good.
So on
Yeah,
the
it's like
no, go ahead. It's contrast. Sorry.
yeah, I just want to add or kind of reiterate like what he was talking about with Spigums. We did a lot of crew battles back then. We did a lot of in-house tournaments, a lot of sparring with each other, and it was just like people that we would find in rank. We would just add them to the server, and we would start playing with each other a lot. And it got really competitive. Like everyone there had a gigantic ego. You could feel it, and people just wanted to be really good. Like Bigums again. We had a bunch of 25, 2600 level players who were just grinding every day, and that started showing more in ranked. People would see our name because we had a bunch of people that were grinding the game all the time. It started showing more in community tournaments as well. Like I brought up esports for you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Spigums, I want to say he won like at least 10 esports for you events, and people would watch them because that was like the only community tournament league that was there back then. And you would see people like Ethan and Tiffany and Boomy and Ilyu and other top players at the time playing in them, and a lot of them would be like losing to Spigums or going even with them. So people were like, "Who is this guy?" And then we would invite them to nSig, and then you would see like the all the other up and coming players talking there as well and just playing with each other. And eventually, those up and comers, like back then we had Experience and Made and Paula, Gradish, and other people that you know nowadays were up and coming back then. They're top players now, and all of their friends, a lot of them came from nSig or they met each other in nSig just because that's where a lot of up and comers back then would start talking.
I kind of want to come back to the community management aspect of things a little bit because you mentioned that like a lot of players kind of had egos and everybody wanted to be better, and that is like really common in like a competitive setting, right? How do you guys deal with um, sort of managing the community that is nSig at this point? Because I know for a little while the community got a little bit of a reputation for not being a very welcoming place, and I feel like that's kind of improved significantly over the last couple of years. Can you talk to a little bit about like how that's changed and like what you guys have done to kind of make that better?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So back in like 2020, this was before we started doing like big tournaments. So I want to say like early 2020 and late 2019 as well. A lot of the people in the server were really toxic, just straight up like gigantic egos. They thought they were better than everyone. They wanted to be better than everyone. They talked a lot of trash. So like you would go into the server and you would see people just not being nice, not very welcoming at all. And there was one incident in particular back then that happened with Sparky and Stingray. And a lot of people I noticed, I woke up, it was like 9 in the morning, and I woke up and I saw a bunch of people in nSig General, like trying to back up Stingray and go after Sparky. And I was like, yo, like this is not cool. Like straight up. Like that's when it really opened my eyes that I needed to manage the server better.
Mm,
Cause that was like a really messed up situation. And a lot of people got really mad at nSig because of that. And
right.
I that day or like that week in general, I I went ahead, I banned a lot of the very bad apples that were in the server, and I made like a long essay and announcements talking about how I'm going to update the rules and I'm gonna try and be a more welcoming place because I had noticed that I cultivated a kind of like an area where there was a lot of really good players that were just like trying to fuel their egos. And I don't really know how to explain that better, but like I could tell it was a good thing, but at the same time it wasn't a good thing.
Mm,
Well, at the time it wasn't a good thing, but I noticed that I could turn it into a good thing
right.
by like making it a more welcoming place, you know. And that's kind of when I had the idea. If we wanted to appeal more to the rest of the community, we could do a tournament. And I told SandWic, hey, let's run a big tournament. Like you see Trix has these tournaments. I was like, yo, why don't we do our own tournament? I hit up my boy EXO, shout out EXO. He taught me how to do everything RGG related, and we ended up running our own big tournament, and just went up from there pretty much.
Nice. Nice. Anything you want to add about community stuff, SandWic?
I guess kind of to generalize like that issue with like players just not knowing how to control their egos. It's literally a situation of like you have untrained, like you have people who are untrained in media.
Mm-hmm.
They're also 13 and 14.
Yeah.
So you just have like a bad mix of like people who could potentially just like ruin how like competitive Brawlhalla looks to like the outside. Because like as soon as like Boomy, Sandstorm, all these other players, if they were to like quit, which some of them had, if a lot of these new players today didn't really like, I guess like crack down or like kind of get used to like not projecting their egos like that, like to their personality like that, I feel like a lot of the landscape today would be a lot more toxic.
Yeah.
Not just in nSig, but like on Twitter in general, because it was bad. It was really, really bad back then. But I'd say like nSig just so happened to be like that area in that time and place where it was like, okay, you want to get like all these new players to like kind of know what to do. It's just did that. And I want to say things got better roughly around like 2021. For sure, like 2021, by then everything smoothened out like a lot more.
Right.
A lot more like older pros and just like people on the outside who had a negative outlook on nSig started to like turn like the other leaf, I guess. Not turn the other leaf, but like kind of realize like, oh, they're actually becoming like something a lot more like they're not here to like play around and just go out. They're like trying to make something cool out of that, I guess.
Yeah.
And like that was the intention we had in the beginning. But again, it's like we ran into that issue of like we have pro players trying to like ego out, do this, that, the third, whether that's like of their own volition or them being influenced by other bad apples. But that got filtered out, and then we're here now. Bro, this hurricane's about to go crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, audio only listeners, you're not seeing it. It looks like despair and agony is about to hit here.
I see the trees.
Bro, you see the webcam shaking. I'm gonna move in a second, but
Okay.
that's essentially how it went. It was just like that grace period of like, okay, nSig's reputation's looking really bad right now in 2018. We could either just disband the clan and just stop everything and just chill, or we could try to repair it. We could take like the hard choice and try to repair it. And
Yeah,
there was probably a couple times where we wanted to just like not do nSig anymore and just like give it up and just like kind of leave it as it is, but we kind of stuck through. We were just like, hey, we can get the community's trust again and just like go crazy, and then that's what we did.
there was also a point in time where I was heavily considering doing a full rebrand, like changing the name, changing the logo, and just straight up trying to
can we talk about low key why that was gonna be a thing? Oh no, I'm asking Contrast.
Okay, so
Yeah,
like at the time, community's outlook was very bad on us, and I wanted to turn nSig around, and I wanted to show that nSig was turning around. So I figured that if we would like just straight up rebrand everything, people would see that I'm being serious about changing it up. And that was pretty much my thought process.
I think we're SandWic is moving indoors because he's trying to not die in a hurricane.
All right. But I remember as well in 2021, I sent a personalized message to Foda. It was very long. And I was basically explaining to him that whole thing with like the Sparky situation and say that's never happening again, and like we're gonna try and make our community be better so that we can do better for the Brawlhalla community. And he was very happy about that message, I think.
I don't know if how many people know that was a thing? Like, is this like as far as like you reaching out to Foda and talking to him about how things were going at nSig?
Nobody knew except SandWic and Foda.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys have put a lot of work into building what nSig has kind of come to be, and part of the reason that I wanted to have both of you on the show is just so that the people that aren't aware of like how much effort and how much work goes into making nSig what it is, like you guys get an opportunity to kind of really talk about it, and so that everybody can understand kind of like what that level of effort is, and how much work you guys put into like not just the community or the Discord or the tournaments or like all of these things together. Like it's a lot of stuff that you guys do. So I'm happy that I was able to get both of you on, because it's funny, I before I talked to SandWic recently and asked if he would be cool to have both of you on at the same time, which of course he was. I had not really considered the idea of having multiple guests on at once. I was like, oh, it was just going to be one person and I would just have Contrast on at a different time. But then later in the season, we have another episode booked for another multi-guest episode, which is going to be kind of a really big deal. And so after I booked that episode, I was like, yo, there's no reason why I shouldn't have both you and SandWic on at the same time. Because like you guys have been best friends for longer than Brawlhalla has existed. And you both are like the originators of nSig. Like it makes perfect sense to just have you on together. So I'm glad that we were able to work this out to have you both on at the same time and kind of dive deep into nSig a bit. So before I move on from nSig, do you guys have anything else that you want to add about community tournaments?
Community tournaments?
Or community or tournaments, or like the community itself or tournaments?
Just like in general?
Just in general. Anything that we haven't covered?
I've had this whole spout in my head for like 20 minutes. Not 20 minutes, like 3 days now. So I think for us having this ambition of like wanting to make our community tournaments look really good has like for the better helped like to raise our like respect as like nSig as like a group in general.
Mm-hmm.
But it also kind of upsets me a tiny bit that like almost no one shares really that same ambition of like wanting to make cool stuff like out of that. Like it's very rare to see like, especially for like live shows in general, for like live content with Brawlhalla, it's almost like no group or anybody does it, and it's especially like apparent for tournaments. Like I feel like these names of like nSig, Brawl League, SSL, Moose Wars have been like the same names out here since like 3 or 4 years now, but it's almost like no one really has like that passion or like that drive to go crazy for whatever reason. If it's more so of like a knowledge reason, I hope they like reach out to like me or Contrast or anybody else of like wanting to make more cool stuff happen, because I think this game, especially for tournaments, like deserves a lot more like passion and care behind it in terms of like community level events. Because like even the stuff that I'm seeing now from other people is like very similar to like back in 2018, 2019 of just like have this caster scene, have this gameplay scene. Okay, boom, done. And I'm not telling people to like make this full show looking thing, like spectacular, robust thing, but like I feel like there's a lot more tools and accessibility out there to make cool stuff happen. Not even just like in live events, but even outside of it, of like making cool communities or like cool content that as of now I don't really see anybody doing, or it's like a repeat of like what nSig was back in 2018, 2019. Which does kind of suck. I do hope people like try to take advantage of like that drive or motivation to want to make cool stuff for Brawlhalla, especially with community events, to like just go all out with it.
I think there's kind of like levels to these things, right? There's like the people that are on level 1 that are doing like entry level stuff where it's just like you have start GG, you've got a stream, you maybe have some casters, that's level 1. And then there's like level 2 is that plus a little bit of production quality maybe sprinkled on top. And then like the next level above that is probably where I think I would say nSig is, as far as like the level of production and the effort that you guys put into like the events that you put on and things like that. And then you've got like the actual like professional tier stuff that's above that, which is the actual Brawlhalla esports style events that are produced by the actual team over at BFG and things like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
In a way, I feel like a lot of people can already like. Maybe this is a bit brunt of a thing to say. A lot of people can replicate at least like the online only formats of Brawlhalla stuff. They can replicate those for like a very small amount of money. Granted, it would be like way more work and stuff to do. You wouldn't have like as much automation and like ease of getting stuff set up. But at least in my case, when I was getting tournaments set up back in like 2021, 2020, it was literally just me grinding out Photoshop and Paint.net, putting those on OBS, and then manually switching stuff out. Like, you know how like in Brawlhalla streams, right? They have like a player stat scenes where they show like all their like their golds, the silvers, the bronzes, right? We didn't have like a way to read all of that information, which the Brawlhalla streams normally do. Like, obviously, there's no one there that's manually typing in every single number, right? They have stuff like makes it easier for them. But I would literally go into Photoshop and like manually put every single number for every single graphic for every potential like 1v1 that could happen, all while live. And I mean, it does the same effect. It's a lot more work, but you can replicate what gets shown on the screen. The backend doesn't matter. As long as like you get that same effect of like, oh, this is what the Brawlhalla stream does, and I'm seeing it here on this like small community tournament level. That's it. That's all the viewers really care about.
Right.
I think so. I think connecting that to like the level metaphor you had, I feel like people could get to like that level 3 of like where the groups are right now, just obviously with a little bit more work with having to like manually do everything, but they could get to that level like relatively easy, in my opinion.
You know, back in the day, in like our earlier tournaments, me and SandWic, we would go through the entire list of attendees for tournaments, go through like all the power rank players, and manually make like in Photoshop, we would manually type out their PR, their earnings, and or their medals for every single power rank player in the attendee list, and we would. Even if they're not gonna show up on stream, if they may show up on stream, we would make one for them just in case they do. And that was like that was kind of crazy.
You know what? It was a lot more work, but it showed people like, yo, this looks really sick. Like I haven't seen this outside of like the mainstream. I want to keep watching these tournaments. That's the effect that we give off, and then we're just like, okay. But the problem is I don't see that anywhere else really, outside of like, again, the major groups that are doing events right now. I don't really see that at the community level, which kind of sucks.
I mean, I think that's a lot of effort, right? It's a lot more effort than
people. It's a lot of unnecessary effort.
I do want to say though that SandWic is one of the most hardworking people I've ever met in my life.
Aww.
And I take full responsibility for unlocking this production beast, because our first tournament was my idea, right? I was gonna stream it myself, and Sandra came to me and he asked me if he could stream it, and I was like, sure, bro, whatever. Like I told her, yeah, you can stream it. We'll call you production, whatever. And like we put a lot of effort into that one tournament, but after that one tournament, like, and you could tell in his brain, he wanted to do better. He wanted to do more. Like we were gonna do another tournament. He wanted to make sure that tournament was way better than the last one, and the one after that would be way better than the last one, like etc. And we would keep going. And he always wanted to do more and more. You could tell with every single tournament, his production level, like the quality, just increased tenfold at least every single time we did one. It was pretty crazy to see in real time.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. There's this trait that I have to where it's like, I'll do a stream, and then people go to me, they're like, yo, this stuff looks like super sick, it's super cool. I'm like, it was okay, it could be better. Like I don't even say that trying to be on some like cool stuff either. I genuinely just feel like upset sometimes about like how the stream might go, and I'm just like, I mean, it was good, but I can make this better. I don't think I've ever had like a satisfying stream, but the trade-off is like, again, we're able to make like cooler stuff, I guess. So I don't mind it like too much. But that kind of lasted from like, again, when I did my first tournament to now.
I think that like core hunger to always do better than the last time is really important for any kind of creative or like significant endeavor like this, right? You have to, if you're not improving, you're stagnating, and if you're stagnating, people are going to stop watching. Like that's kind of the reality of it, right? And like the only way to keep increasing viewership is to always try to do it bigger and better than the last time. And if you ever hit that peak and you feel like you're kind of there, why would they come back the next time if you don't feel like you can make things better?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's just in general kind of a good attitude to have on things. So, while you may not feel like you've had a satisfying stream or a satisfying event, just always knowing that you can do better, is probably the motivation to continue, right?
Oh, it's like that, and then just people saying like, "Yo, this stream was cool. This stream was sick." Like as long as I see that, I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I did my job. Because ultimately, what I think of a stream that looks cool is like whatever. That's like maybe 20% of like what I actually care about, like in a production.
Mm-hmm.
If I can make even like a top player who's watched Brawlhalla for like 7 or 8 years say like willingly put their effort into going to chat and like laughing about something that happened on stream or something cool that happened, you're making a person who's watched 8 years of Brawlhalla emotionally get attached to something competitive related, which is like, that's a very hard thing to do. That is a very, very hard thing to do.
No, I agree. Especially for the people that have been in it for so long. Yeah, it's really difficult. Let's talk a little bit about Brawlhalla itself for a little bit. So you both started into 2015, you said before, right? What was kind of like your gameplay experience in Brawlhalla like when you first started? How long did it take you to go from like, oh, we're just kind of like fooling around in this game that we found, to I am invested, I'm progressing, we're climbing the ladder, like you're actually starting to see improvement? Like what's the sort of the time scale there?
So
I'll let Contrast answer this one. Yeah.
So it was actually at a pretty it was a pretty different timeline for both of us. So when we started, we were just it was with us two and a bunch of IRL friends, and we would play free for all, a lot of free for all, and at some point, we started doing 1v1s like against each other, and not to brag, but you know, I was the best in the friend group. But we would always just start like 1v1ing with each
He's
other.
lying, by the way.
No, I'm not. And we just started like playing a lot more, and there was some point where we ended up doing a tournament. Like it was like 12 of us, just IRL friends. We did like a tournament in our friend group. That was kind of fun. And I want to say at that point, I started like grinding rank because I was like, oh yeah, I like this game. Like I'm gonna get good at it. This was season 1, and I was grinding hard. I want to say over 1,000 wins in season 1, and I was like low diamond, probably like 1,100 wins, low diamond. And by the time the next few seasons rolled out, it started pushing into like 2017, 2018. By then I was starting to hit 23, 2,400, just because I was mainly grinding with my friends, One Oz and Spigums at the time. They were like the main reasons that I got pretty good at the game. And by the yeah, by 2019, I was a pretty good player. I was getting top 32s in majors in 2019 and 2020. And that was when SandWic started to catch up to me. So we started teaming in twos. We played a lot of 2v2 tournaments together. We got top 16 a couple times. Got a lot of top 32s. never really kind of broke into that top 8 area that I wanted to at one point, and I kind of just fell off and started focusing more on nSig than anything. So like Brawlhalla related, because I was mainly focused on school. And I realized I don't have enough time to try to go pro anymore, so I
Yeah.
gave up.
No, that's fair and understandable. How about you, SandWic? How did your
Uh,
beginnings in
so,
Brawlhalla start?
so yeah, similar start to where it was just like us playing free for all and whatnot back in like 2015, 2016. Contrast was a lot more of like the ranked grinder, the esports type of person, but I was still like playing a lot more free for all with like our IRL friends and whatnot. I wasn't really like doing much until I want to say like early 2017. That's when I think I entered Winter Champs. That was like my first tournament. I got like some horrendous placement, like 256, 193. I don't know, somewhere in the triple digits. And I started playing ranked for like a lot. I want to say. Uh, I didn't look at like replays or anything either. I was just like one of those players who would like constantly play the game. It wasn't like I wouldn't even play like a single character. I wouldn't have like a game plan in mind. I would just play ranked like all the time, just clock it in, which did result in me like having to play catch up for like a longer time. But eventually in like late 2018, 2019, Contrast and I teamed. We would play like a ton of twos tournaments on like Hammer. We played like Bodvar Koji. We would look at like what Ithro and Noel were doing when they were teaming. Um, but we would kind of like mirror their comps for a bit. We got like 17th, 13th, and then after a bit, Contrast stopped playing the game around like what 20, like mid 2020. I
Late
I, I
20.
know I know it was like a bit after CEO, the online one, unfortunately.
Yeah, this online CEO, we got like 13th, and I want to say that a little bit after that is when we stopped playing. We got top 32 at the BCX as well, like the online BCX, and then just like
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah, after
Yeah,
that is when I like retired fully.
yeah. So Contrast like stopped playing after that time, but I was still like very much into ones because at that point, that's when I got like insanely addicted into like playing ones a lot. I want to say around like 2020. That's kind of like where the whole 33rd curse, I guess, of like the whole community came up. I think now I had like up to like 13 or 14. It was like bad, but it kind of became this meme of like no matter who you fought in bracket, like no matter who you fought in bracket, it didn't matter. If you fought SandWick for top 32, it was like, oh, okay, it's a given. And there were still people that were like cheering me on, which is like pretty sick. But I was like hard stuck there for like a good like 1 or 2 years, which was in retrospect still tragic because like you notice like a lot of people by their like third or fourth tournament they'll like usually get it down. But again, I was like someone who was just playing the game just for playing the game. It
Mhm.
wasn't really to like get good or anything up until like way later on. So it was like 2021. I started like kind of changing up the way like I approached the game like competitively. I started like, okay, what's up with like the meta? Like what characters are good? What are top players doing? And that's when I really like got in my bag of like trying to learn how the game works. And I still didn't get like the placements that I wanted, but I was like definitely getting smarter about the game. I was like becoming way more aware. And keep in mind, that's after me playing the game for like 3 to 4 years of just like nothing, of just straight up playing ranked or whatever, right? So 2021, I start like looking into the game, like trying to get smarter with it. Uh, Passes by to I think like early 2022, and we're doing like events. I'm in my first job, I think, so I'm like 13 hours almost every day, just either on Brawl or doing some like other responsibility with like school or whatever. And that's between like running nSig. So it would be like let's go through like a typical day of like 2021 like competing, right? So I would like wake up, go to school for like maybe like 5 or 6 hours, come back, practice Brawl, manage something like nSig related, go to work or something, and then like just end the day like that. And it would go on forever, forever, and forever. And it was like pretty unsustainable. It was like really bad. But that persisted for a few. And it happened until like 2022 of May, when legit out of nowhere, I get a DM from Toast. I remember I was in a VC with Mbala, just like on a regular morning. I get a DM from Toast. He's like, "Yo, do you want to work on a seasonal?" I'm like, "Me." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's go." So a lot of my stuff competitively like completely went to the left road, and I started doing like production for like the Brawlhalla channel and like really getting into my bag there. But I hadn't necessarily like quit on playing competitive either. I was trying to like mix in between like practicing for both. So I would say like after Springs 2022, I got that DM, and then the rest of that year was just straight up like me not playing competitive at all. I would still play ranked a lot, but I wouldn't really practice as much. But uh, I would like be a lot more invested into production, which inadvertently I think that helped me a little bit because I stopped playing the game so much, and I would quite literally be forced to watch gameplay like almost all the time.
True.
I literally put in a position where I'm getting paid to watch top gameplay. So at that point, I'm just like, okay, I can't really compete in seasonals. I'm just gonna like get what I can get out of it, right?
Sure.
And I would constantly like keep myself up with like what players were doing good, like who was doing good, what was in the meta, like what was going on with balance, etc. I was just keeping myself constantly updated and updated. So the rest of 2022, I don't really compete. And then it was 2023 winters. I think I played singles. That was like my first seasonal or like tournament ever back. I got like 33rd, I want to say, again, but that was off the premise of me not playing for like 9 to 10 months. So I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not washed, and players got better. So there's like something I could cook up with, right? Springs I didn't play because I did the seasonals for both the weekends for singles and doubles, and then I think San Diego happened. San Diego, well, bro, San Diego was a trip. I mean, it was my first LAN of like actually competing since I think like CEO 2019.
Okay.
But at that point, I knew like a lot more people, so it was a lot more of just me going out for fun, and less about how I placed. I think I still placed like 49th after going like 1-3 with Simple and Phazon, EU Simple, not NA Simple, thankfully. I went 1-3 with both of them, and that's when I was like, okay, I need to like change how I think about the game again, right? Again, I was still positive in the sense of like I hadn't got washed. I wasn't like really bad. I just needed to like practice and think more. And then Dallas happened, and then that's when I got like the placement I wanted. I got 25th. Bro, I still think that pop off, not necessarily the pop off. I think that's like the hardest a crowd has ever popped off in like any Brawlhalla thing ever.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
It was really crazy. That tournament happened, and then at that point I was just like, well, I finished what I wanted to do, and then I get hit up again, and they're like, hey, do you want to like work for Brawlhalla with like video editing? I'm like, me. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, sure. So that's what I'm doing ever since now. But I don't know how, and a lot of my friends have told me this too. They are very confused on how I just did not quit at all after getting like really bad placements. And this is the part where someone's supposed to tell you some motivational thing. I don't know. I'm just a very crazy person. I don't know. But I played for like 7 years, got my placement, and even now I still want to compete. I feel like there's a lot of like new stuff I want to try with getting into tournaments, but I'm way more lax about it now. Just like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least competitively as a player, or not even competitive, just in general for like Brawlhalla, I'm very much just like invested in the esports scene a lot more, like as I was before.
I think as far as like being concerned about how someone doesn't quit, like if you're really passionate about something, you just kind of want to keep pushing for it, right? And I know for a long time you really just wanted that top 32, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense in my mind why someone would keep kind of sticking with it, especially if you're that close, like 33rd over and over again. This is just a matter of like, what is the one thing that you've got to change in order to make the breakthrough, right? So yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. When you got the so Dallas was nuts, the top 32 and the pop off and everything. When you got that placement, at that point were you like, okay, I'm kind of satisfied, with competing, or now do you want to see if you can push farther?
I was maybe satisfied for like 20 minutes after that, and then I fought Cutie, and then I was like back to reality. But even now, it's like, I mean, I got top 32 that like set, but like top 32 is whatever. Like there's still 16th, there's 8th,
Yeah.
7th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd. There's like more places to go. I want to get better. I want to play higher. So I wouldn't say I'm like fully content with it. I'm just not like as hungry as I was like 3 years ago when I wanted like to get that placement. Because like now it's like I know how to approach the game a lot smarter than
Sure.
before. I'm not like desperately like trial and erroring it, I guess.
Let's bring it back to when you were first, when both of you were first like really getting good, like, and you can see and like feel your improvement starting. Like, how did you actually learn how to play the game? And like, were there any like resources that you used? Any guides? Any like coaching? Anything like? Did you take advantage of anything like that? Contrast.
I really just watched a lot of top level gameplay. Like throughout all of 2017, 2018, 2019, I was there. I was watching every single tournament that was happening. North American, Europe, lands. I was watching everything, all top level gameplay that I could digest. I was watching it, and I was trying to replicate all the players I liked. Like Sandwick mentioned earlier that we would play twos and we would just copy top players comps because that's what we would do. Like back then, we would copy Noala's I throw, and we would play Koji Bodvar and just do the exact same combos that they did. And then later on, when when Captain I throw started teaming, we started copying them with the double Bodvar, and I was pretty much just like watching a lot of top level gameplay and sparring a lot with my friends because my friends were really good. So I would play a lot with them, like the people that were in nSig. That was pretty much it for me.
How about you, Sandwick? When you really started to kind of like improve at the game, was there anything specific that you were doing? Any resources that you were learning from?
So there wasn't really a lot of resources back then. You look at like a lot of this stuff now in like just in this year or last year alone with how many educational stuff has been out, especially from like let's say Stingray, right? I think it's a little side tangent, but we'll get back to the question. Like educational content and just getting better at the game in general from external resources has gone up like a lot more this year and last year from like Stingray and other people. But for my time, there wasn't really anything there. So what me and like Contrast and like a ton of other players do is just we would just like watch pro play gameplay. In my case, I didn't at all. I just played ranked again. I would just like spam ranked. I would spar Contrast and other like players and just like keep myself in the game as long as possible. Then I think I started watching top gameplay around like 3 years into like playing competitive. So like 2020, 2021, that's when I really got like into the analytical side of stuff. But in terms of like using resources externally, that didn't really happen. It was just like the old fashioned way of watch gameplay, spar people, look back at your stuff, and then rinse and repeat.
Gotcha. All right. We're getting into the last sort of like few minutes of the show. So I've got a couple, or at least one more kind of oddball question for you. For the people that don't know, because actually I don't know either of you, how did you come up with your gamer tags? Like, where did Contrast come from? We'll start with you.
I was really hoping this would have come up, bro.
Okay. There is absolutely no meaning to my name. I just like the word. I thought it was cool, so I stuck with it.
Okay.
That was it.
Easy enough. How about you, Sandwick?
So you ever get hungry one time in the morning? You want a really good sandwich for
Sure.
breakfast? So that was
No.
me. So that was me. I woke up. I went to make like a ham and cheese sandwich. I'm like, I need a name change. Let's make it like Sandwick. It's like without the H and it's cool. And I just stuck with it for like 3 or 4 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there is nothing deep to it.
No rebrand coming in the future for SandWick or
Bro,
Contrast?
I tried
Yeah,
so
it's
much,
too late
bro.
for this guy.
It's
He,
so late.
bro, when he first made the name Sandwick, I'm like, oh, you need to change that now. And then he's like, I will eventually. And then he ended up making a name for himself as Sandwick. So like now it's too late.
It's too late. Everybody knows you
Yeah.
as SandWick now. There's no escaping
Yeah.
it.
There's just no, bro. It makes me more pissed that people say sandwich. They see the name without the H, and they're like, "Oh, sandwich, thank you for the follow." I'm like, bro, come on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up about there. Do you guys have anything that you want to shout out? Any events coming up? Anything that nSig's doing that you want to talk about, or anything that you individually are doing that you would like people to know about?
Well, wish us luck in getting partnered. If you're watching this podcast like a year from now and we're not partnered, we would have dismantled nSig and everything. We wouldn't like be on socials anymore. All that.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the past like month or so, we've pretty much just been spamming Twitch streams trying to get partnered, and we finally reached the analytics that we need. So we're actually about to put in our application after we finish this now. So
that's awesome.
Oh, well,
so it's
hopefully
just
if Twitch like updated it. I
Yeah.
haven't checked that all yet, but I'm gonna assume it like ours.
It usually takes like 24 to 48 hours to get the analytics updated, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
updated the average viewers, but the day streamed is taking its time. I haven't checked
Gotcha.
since though, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
Well, good luck with your partner application. Hopefully it goes well. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, now that you guys have hit the thresholds, you can kind of just keep up the momentum. Even if you get rejected the first time, you just keep up the momentum and reapply every so often. So
Yeah.
cool. Any other
Uh,
nSig events coming up?
I mean, we have an SEA showdown going on. We do SEA tournaments every single month. I'm pretty sure at this point we're the only people doing SEA tournaments. Maybe
Okay.
question mark. I don't know. I guess I wish we had time to talk about SEA, bro. That's a whole other thing that's super cool. But I'll speed it up a little bit. Just being able to do like tournaments for SEA for like a region that normally doesn't really get like a ton of attention. It's been super fun to do. So if you want to support them, we do SEA tournaments every single month. SEA Showdown. Just check it out whenever there's one that happens. In case you're watching this a year from now.
Cool. All right. SandWick Contrast, thank you both very much for coming on. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks for watching episode 2 of Brawlhalla Origins. Episode 3 comes out next week on October 2nd. Our next guest is Kosalix. Leave a comment on YouTube or tweet at me with the hashtag Brawlhalla Origins to let me know your thoughts on the show and ask questions for next week's guest. I'm happy to share that Season 1's guests have all been decided. After this season is finished, I'll be taking a break to work on some other content and deciding who I would like to have on for Season 2, so please keep sending in your guest requests. And as always, if you enjoy this and want to see more, please subscribe and share. Don't forget to check out brawlacademy.com. Thanks.